Hi, Bravehearts. I'm back here in Denver after my 2 weeks of ritual and ceremony and pilgrimage in Sweden and in the south of France. I am Janelle O'Ryan, erotic wellness practitioner and advocate and educational porn star. And I am committed to love and freedom and surrendered to this wild life. I'm happy to show you my outfit for the day, which is this. It's really a cover-up, actually. This is from Anthropology. I got it at a thrift store years ago. It's all cutouts here, but I wear it with this gold belt and cinch it as a dress, and I love it. It's such a wow piece for the summer. My just say no today has to do with jet lag. I said no to jet lag, and instead I had this experience yesterday flying home from Marseille, France to Denver via London that I had promised myself that I could read the third book in the Fourth Wing series by Rebecca Yarros after the pilgrimage was over. And I remembered that when I was in London on the layover, and I had a chance to download it, and it's a 23-hour book. I started listening to it as soon as I got on the plane, and I ended up being teleported to Denver. I never fell asleep. I just listened and listened and listened and was like carried away by it. And it was exceptional. It was one of my best flights of all time. And I got home, hung out with Barb for a while, had dinner, and then took a bath, listened to the book some more, was still engaged, was able to stay awake until 10:30, and then went to sleep and slept the whole night until 7:30. So that is my, if you have a book that you're so excited about, that might be a way when you're coming back from Europe to teleport. Now, switching gears to my just say yes. On this Mary Magdalen pilgrimage, where my friend Kate and I traveled with a woman named Chiara Santos of the Rose Temple, and she is a devotee of Mary Magdalene and Yeshua and Gnostic Christianity and actually other spiritual traditions as well. And she led us on a shamanic tour of the various Mary Magdalene sites in the south of France. Now, this pilgrimage was one of the most unique ways for me to travel that I've done. I've done many shamanic retreats, right, where everything's just emergent. I was at a mystery school in New Zealand in the spring, all shamanic. But to be traveling in historical sites, in this case in Europe, and go to the sites and just allow what wants to emerge was unique and was a beautiful way to experience these sacred sites. And my just say yes was we had the option to get baptized in the Christian Gnostic tradition as described in the Nag Hammadi that was discovered in 1945 that includes the Mary Magdalene Gospel. But apparently there's other documentation by a woman named Naraya about the rite of the 5 sacred seals, which was the baptism that Mary Magdalene conducted on thousands of people and Yeshua as well. And I had the option to say yes to that, which was a profound experience. I didn't know we were going to have the option to be baptized, but there was just a truth in my system around it. And the most profound part of it was there was a heat wave happening in France. It was so hot, over 100 every day that we were there. And as I came out of the water, and Kate and Chiara were my witnesses, essentially, right, this baptism is one of inviting my soul to marry itself. And I've done rituals like this several times. And in this instance, as I was hugging myself, thunder struck. And it happened twice during my baptism. And there was no storm happening any other time during the week that we were there. And there was no storm even like leading up to it. It just kind of happened. That moment of the thunder, of the elements aligning with this union within myself, was one of the most profound parts of the whole week for me. My just say wow has to do with visiting the Cave of Eggs, which is a relatively hidden cave that's next to the Saint Baume cave in Saint Baume, France, where Mary Magdalen is reported to have spent many years of her life. And the second cave is marked, but quite hidden. There's two parts to it. One, on our journey there, it's hard to find. And although our guide had been there several times, we still meandered and zigzagged and took a few wrong turns before we got there. But we kept saying, oh, well, we're going to get there at the appointed time, which was whatever time we got there. We were not following a schedule. There's no agenda. There were more people on the main trail, but once you got off the main trail to try to find this other cave, there was very few people on it. And when we finally got there, I was awed by the entrance. It literally is a yoni shaped like multiple layers, absolutely exquisitely stunning. And then the temperature, you can feel the temperature change when you're outside of the cave. The entrance is quite narrow, like, one body width, maybe two body widths to get into it. And yet the temperature was so much colder. I mean, we put on jackets, down jackets, and to go sit in there for about an hour. And it was a really beautiful experience. And we set up an altar before we went in, and it had some crystals and a cross and a candle and some other objects that we put there. And then behind us, outside of the entrance, we had our backpacks, and we only brought down what we essentially needed. So the appointed hour, what does that mean? And you can feel like, oh, something exciting or something wonderful is going to happen. Or there's a sense when I'm moving through the world that like I'm always where I'm supposed to be at that exact time. And so whatever's happening is the thing that's supposed to be happening because it's happening. But there's a spiritual bypassing that can take place. If only good things are happening, that means the divine is present. And we had this really unusual experience, which is that when we came out of the cave, and I will say this, when we got down to the bottom of the cave, we heard voices. I thought they were inside the cave. Turns out they weren't. They were at the top. These two people, they never came down, but they could hear us because we had singing bowls and we were singing. And when we came out of the cave, one of Kiara's sacred objects, a crystal, had been taken. And it was so strange and so startling and disconcerting because nothing else was taken from the altar and our bags weren't taken. And even Kate's cell phone was in the bag and like that wasn't taken. It was just this particular crystal off of a sacred altar, and they could hear the people down in the cave. And the lesson for me was it also had to be sacred timing. That's what happened. And even though it wasn't mine, Kiara had to be the one to go through the journey of feeling the loss of this object and the letting go of it. For me, it was a practice of we don't always like what's happening, but it doesn't make it any less divine. That's what I have for the free subscribers today. For the paid subscribers, I've got a story regarding how the image of Christ walking on water, how my experience is in life of that, and how that's a big takeaway of this pilgrimage. So if you're curious to learn how it feels like I'm walking on water, then become a subscriber. Otherwise, see you next week.